Good evening. and welcome back to Vegas October 1 Sounds, the Hunter Chronicles. Tonight we're going to take on a very simple subject, namely the food service carts. Sometimes the simplest of questions can lead to the most complex of answers, and in reverse, sometimes complex questions can lead to the simplest of answers. We start out with the simple question tonight. How many food service carts are there? And as we all know about the two, the one in the hallway and the one in the bedroom. But there may be more. And that's the subject of this evening's video. Now, why do I ask this question? Because once again, in my investigations on the 29th, you come across the statement that a food ticket was closed out in the late evening hours. And okay, we just take that as a fact and calculate backwards and look for the lock interrogation report entries that might correspond to a food delivery, and you find something, and you just move on kind of forward and said, okay, a food delivery was made. But when you look at the overall picture, you say, wait a minute now. Up here at the top of the FIT report, where it's talking about the 29th, it says that the staff was contacted by Paddock and told specifically to leave the cart in the room. So that's the complication, and that leads to some interesting observations. So how many food carts did Paddock have? Well, let's see. Like I said, there was one in the hallway. There it is. See, all nice and pretty and clean and camera covered up like Bitsko left it. And then there was the one inside of room 134. And you say, well, that one looks a little messier there. Okay. That's two food service carts. But where did they come from? Well, let's see. Duh, from food services, of course. But that's not really the question. But wait, weren't there three food delivery services to Paddock's room? Well, if you watched my most recent video, you know that there are, because I plotted all the activity, and you'll see that there are three food deliveries. One on Wednesday, one on Friday, and one on Sunday. Okay, well, that's all fine and good. Yep, three deliveries, 27th, 29th, and 1st. But who didn't leave the cart? If all we've got is the one in the hallway and the one in the room, who didn't leave a cart? I mean, on the 29th... So anyway, let's poke around in the FIT report and see what we can find. All right, here we go. The statement for the 29th. And you'll notice from the underlined red part, a staff member was told by Paddock not to vacuum room 135 and not to remove the food service cart from the room. Yep, there it is. Okay, so now we have Paddock giving the staff a specific command. Now, which cart was that? Well, it can't be the one from the first, can it? Nope. In fact, what we'll see from the chart, it has to be the one from the 27th. And so here we do. We start out. The only food service cart would have been from the 27th, 2 days prior. And immediately you ask, 2 days prior? Wait a minute now. This is a fellow who bitched about a smell coming out from room 134, bitched about food left in the refrigerator, and he didn't want to use it. He ordered up a second refrigerator. Why would he leave food lying around on a cart for 2 days? Seems a little at odds there, but let's let it roll. Let's just, take it at face value. Okay, so, but on the 29th, here we have him asking at 2 p.m. to leave that cart. So you see, it has to be that cart because there were no other food deliveries between the 27th and the 29th when they cleaned the room at 2 p.m. Room 135. So it all ties nicely together. Now, when you think about that for a moment, you say, okay, Back on the 27th, he ate. That means that he had to want the cart back then. But anyway, the fact that they're cleaning on the 29th means that he doesn't care if they see that cart in the room. In fact, he specifically asked them to leave it there, which is going to bring their attention to the cart. And if he had anything nefarious going on that was on the cart, they would have seen it. So he obviously didn't have anything nefarious going on with that cart at 2 p.m. on Friday, the 29th. So what the hell was he going to do with this cart then? Because he was going to do something in the future with it. So we've got the one cart. Now, obviously, I raised this question. He had the cart on the 27th. He didn't set it outside any time from the 27th to 29th. On the 29th, he made sure that housekeeping didn't take it away. So this man obviously had a plan for that cart. When was that plan formulated? Doesn't necessarily mean that it started on the 27th, but it sure suggests it. And then that makes, raises a whole bunch of questions. But, he could have got it, could have left it around. Normally people just roll their cart right out of the hallway when they're done, but, he could have left it around and then thought about it and said, oh, I could use that. But it definitely suggests that as early as the 27th he had plans for that cart. And you say, but which cart is this? There's two of them. Okay, let's see if we can decipher out which one it is. Well, there exists a leak image of the receipt for that meal on the 27th, and here we have. He had a big burger, he had a bagel, he had some potato soup, he had 1 liter of Pellegrino, and 2 Pepsis. Well, wait a minute, that's a lot of drinks, isn't it? But hey, maybe he's saving up for one. I don't normally sit down and drink a liter of bottled water, but I suppose, if there's no bottled water in the room, I'll, get some and put it in my refrigerator where it's cool and use it later. 2 sodas, maybe that's the same thing. Or maybe there was 2 people, who knows. So anyway, so there we have it. But most importantly, we got the potato soup there, because the image of the cart outside has what appears to be crackers on it. Soup's always served with crackers. So it is very possible that this could be the cart that was served up on the 27th. Doesn't absolutely guarantee that it is, because these dishes could have been moved from one cart to the next. But, it raises the probability. So let's just allocate this to the 27th. Great. Well, then what about this one? The one in room 134. Yeah, look at that thing. I mean, this cart has got 2 plates, both of which look like they have food left on them. It looks like the plates are about to fall off the cart. They've got something that looks like maybe a hot water jug in the back, or a teapot or something. I mean, none of that stuff there came from the 27th, that's for sure. So that only leaves the 29th and the 1st. But I'm saying that given the disheveled nature of this cart, that this cart was most likely prepared at the last minute. The food is obviously fairly fresh, and that came from the food delivery on the 1st. So now we've got the two carts, two carts with tablecloths allocated. One from the 27th, which ended up in the hall, and the one from the 1st, which ended up in room 134. Okay. What happened to the 29th? There's only 2 food service carts documented in the FIT reports. Could Paddock have left one from the 29th on the hall, and would it be taken away? That seems kind of at odds with his earlier statement. I mean, if he really just wanted 2 carts, he could have just saved the one from the 29th and the 1st, and wouldn't have had to worry about the one from the 27th. But he didn't. He specifically said, save the cart from the 27th. So, raises a few more questions. But then, we got this other thing in the room. What about it? This thing that's silver and over by the bar in room 135. This thing. that looks more like a suitcase than anything, you know. And this is the statement in the fit report. It doesn't call it a cart. It calls it an empty silver-colored rolling case. Was on the floor north of the counter at the east end. The Luxor sticker and the 29 sticker were on the back of the case. Okay. So they don't call it a food cart, but they don't call it a suitcase. They just call it a rolling case. And it was empty. Well, several people did some research on this. And the first thing we have to notice is that it was not seen on any bellhop cart, nor was Paddock seen pulling it. So that only leaves the two possibilities. One, it was brought up by a different guest, or it was brought up by a staff. Either way. And since we're missing something from the 29th, the probability goes up that it was from the 29th. But to be from the 29th food service, it has to be related to food. And it was empty. But what was in it? What is its function? Well, you can see where I'm going with this. And after we've seen this little blip here, it becomes pretty obvious. Over in LVSA's archive, he's got a video showing something extremely similar looking to this cart, and I'm just going to let that video roll. I've sped it up a little bit, and it matches very closely with the image here in the fit report. So let's watch that little video from a company, SICO, a food warmer. Nice little rolly cart. This lady's rolling along. The cart's on the bottom. She just lifts it off, and then when everybody's done with it, she pulls it up. In this case, it's empty, but you notice it's got shelves in there for food and place. She rolls it off when it's all done. Now that thing just looks very similar to what's in Paddock's room, doesn't it? So I think that's a pretty good match, and we're going to call it a food warmer, which then further increases the probability that that silver box came in on the 29th. So is this the missing service cart from the 29th? And if so, where are the plates and silverware? The 29th food was delivered via room 134, and we would have to explain why that ended up in 135. But that's a topic for discussion elsewhere. And there's just a whole bunch of other questions that could be asked of this thing. Like, what are the timing and how it was delivered, its relationship to when the ticket was closed out, and all that sort of stuff. And we could count the plates and look more closely at this silverware, and we could look, more closely at the things that were on both carts, maybe at the food on the 134, and try to make a better determination. But for me, it's good enough. The box was, in fact, the food warmer, and it was delivered late evening on the 29th, and I have no clue what meal it was, but it must have been something awful special to bring a box like that, something that required the food to stay quite warm. Now, why it has Luxor on it and why it has 29 on it, I don't know. I don't know the significance of those things. So, here we are. We took a simple question, made a few simple observations, and pretty much, concluded that this silver-like thing was, in fact, a meal warmer, and that it was used on the 29th. Or at least, that's the working theory. And we just make a few other observations in this summary. And this is a quick and short video, and we'll catch you in the next one.